Welcome to Our Social Impact, brought to you by the Prison Scholar Fund. The Prison Scholar Fund's mission is to provide education and employment assistance to help currently and formerly incarcerated people succeed and thrive in society while avoiding homelessness and the revolving door of reincarceration. The PSF also advocates for reform in correctional education to increase opportunity for all. As a nonprofit, we rely on investments, volunteers, and are always looking for board members to champion our mission. Please connect with us through our website at prisonscholars.org, where you can find volunteer opportunities, make a contribution, and learn about becoming a board member. You can also email us at info@prisonscholars.org and find us through most social media platforms at Prison Scholars. Become a patron by supporting us directly at Patreon with @Prison Scholars. We appreciate your review of this podcast through whatever platform you listen through. Without further ado, here's Dirk Van Velsen, founder and CEO of the Prison Scholar Fund.
So we're filming from a really exciting place today, the Watergate Hotel.
Yes.
Less than 50 feet away is where G. Gordon Liddy and Howard Hunt changed history.
Historical place.
Historical place. So there's actually a thing called the Scandal Room, and we might do a tour of that later.
Yeah.
In the meantime, welcome to the show, Marcus Bullock.
Thank you so much, Dirk, for having me. I'm super pumped to be able to be here.
And you have an amazing thing called Flickshop.
Yes.
And before we get into that, we kind of bumped into each other years ago. I think it was first in the New Profit, John Legend, Unlock Futures cohort.
Yes, sir.
And also through Just Leadership USA.
Yes, sir.
But you had an interesting path to all of those. So tell me about what you're doing now and how you got there.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, like not only just launching Flickshop, but trying to figure out how to navigate through those muddy waters of entrepreneurship, learning how to navigate through jumping over the hurdles of the knowledge gap that I just, apparently just have. My last grade completed was the 9th grade, trying to figure out how to connect customers back to a product that they've never heard of before, building a solution for a community of people that typically are kind of sort of forgotten about, or boxed out of opportunity when innovation comes around. Like all of those challenges were things that I hadn't thought about when we first launched Flickshop, and I wish that I had. But I'm probably glad that I didn't, because if I had, I probably would have never launched the app. It's been a tough journey along the way, but today I'm finally grateful to say that it's going well.
I think going well is kind of an understatement, because you went through the Techstars Accelerator program. You're talking about hockey sticks and billions of users. So how did that conversation go from like this crazy idea in prison, hey, I'm going to do this wackadoo idea, and then you actually have traction with tech investors?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, right, when we first started Flickshop, I never dreamt that it would turn into what it has become, where I have an opportunity to not only build an incredible company and lead up a team that wants to be able to be impactful in the world, but also my advocacy work is pretty cool. I get the opportunity to be able to work on policy stuff. I don't know where the turning point was for the company. It really was like a collection of failures that continued to mount up that eventually became a mountain that looked like success. And I think that that's the most interesting part about the journey. It was that we were able to figure out how to flip a lot of those very, very, very consistent failures into one big success story. And I think that's interesting.
Oh, so it's funny because you and I are talking about Flickshop because we both know what it is.
Yeah.
But all the people listening probably don't.
So
let's do a little quick introduction of what Flickshop is and where that idea came from.
Yeah. So we built the technology that helps keep family members connected to their incarcerated loved ones. We knew that there was a predatory marketplace out there that was preying on the families and centered around the phone systems and other communication methods that are that have permeated themselves around the prison systems in the United States, but they are all very, very, very expensive. And with the majority of the people in prison not being able to afford those services, the family members begin to break apart. And so we wanted to be able to build a technology that filled that gap, that was affordable for family members to communicate with their loved ones that were incarcerated, but also that was easy for them to do. So we created a mobile app, which is the first version of Flickshop. It's a mobile application that allows our users to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that picture and text on a real tangible postcard, and we ship it to any person in any prison, any jail, juvenile detention center, ICE detention center, anywhere in the country.
So I don't know if I ever told you this, but the reason I love your program so much, or your business, I guess, is because when I was incarcerated for 15 years, I had a dad and a brother. And my dad traveled a lot, and my brother was in the Coast Guard when the Marines and then the Coast Guard. So he traveled all the time. So every week I got a different postcard from Tangiers, Morocco, the Isle of Man, Japan. So over time, I had to ship boxes of postcards home.
Wow.
Every wall in my cell had
postcards all over them.
Yeah, at first it started small, of course. And then over time, it's like, you just walk in your cell and boom. And it's funny because a lot of people have the misconception, like they don't want to share the outside world with prisoners, like you're going to hurt their feelings. Man, I love that. Keep my mind out there.
Absolutely.
And
no question.
So that's just beautiful. So it's cool.
I mean, I think that's most people who haven't been to prison. Like, once you've been there, you're like, I get it all the time. Like, why would I send someone a postcard? Yeah. First of all, and then it's like, okay, well, why would I want to send a postcard about like my vacation? Like, no one wants to see that if you're in prison. You know,
yeah,
we do. What are you talking about?
Take a picture of a steak.
Take a picture of a steak. Take a picture of the beach. Take a picture of the sand. Take a picture of the soda that you drink. Take a picture of the hotel that you were staying in. Take a picture of the hotel room.
Everything.
Include me in the entire vacation.
Just like all that stupid shit you put on Instagram, send it to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the cost isn't so bad. It's reasonable.
It's 99 cents. And we wanted to be able to make sure that it stayed affordable for our families. Eventually, we'll get to a point where we hope and pray that the families won't have to pay anything for our services. And we're actively thinking about how to cut the costs so that families have to pay nothing. But right now, still affordable. It's a buck. And you can share every moment just like you would on Instagram.
So it's funny. A couple minutes ago, you talked about a mountain of failures. So tell me about your favorite failure. My
favorite failure. Okay. I don't have to search my brain too far. So I got a ton of them, right? Like it's a million of them. I could probably think of 5 this week. My favorite one though is probably CMC, Correctional Media Corporation. Correctional Media Corporation was this business that I wanted to start maybe about 2 years, not even, maybe a year and a half coming out of prison. I wanted to start a media company that bring MP3 players to prison, and at the time it was only cassette tapes that you could have inside of prison. Most facilities had just cassette tapes or radios, FM radio.
So kind of like the J player,
exactly what you experienced in like one of those the J player or whatever. So those are called, but. We knew that we wanted to start this thing, and so there was nothing out there like that in the market at the time. And so I started this company. It was CMC, Correctional Media Corporation, and we were going to figure out a way to, because it was right at the iPod drop, right? It was like iPod 3 had just come out.
Oh, this was quite a ways back then.
This is quite a ways back. Yeah. MP3 was still big. They were still we were all still listening to music on CD players.
So you're probably ahead of the J players.
We were well ahead of the J players. In fact, funny story is that what ended up happening was I wanted to start this company, Correctional Media Corporation. I started the company. I didn't know what I was in for, right? But I am so that entrepreneur. Well, I'll jump out the window first on a 20-story building and build my parachute on the way down, and hopefully I don't go splat. No, I've gone splat a lot of times, but this one here, I couldn't find. I needed to find someone that I'm not a technical founder, right? Yeah. So I knew I had the innovative drive to be able to build it and build the kind of company that we can bring into fruition. And so I started to pitch the idea to people who knew how to build these kinds of technologies, and we landed on one development team that was working out of the University of Porto in Portugal.
Interesting.
And so,
how did you find them all the way over here in America?
Interesting. Yeah. I'm Googling, man.
I'm a Googler.
Yeah, I'm a Googler. I learned everything on Google and YouTube.
Me too.
I built all of my businesses and all of my Google and YouTube. Yeah. And so, I found this one team, and I pinged them, and we were going back and forth a little bit and talking a little bit about the product and what it is that we wanted to build. And they're like, hey, do you have some drawings? And I had, some prototype drawings that that literally pen and paper drawings of some stuff that I wanted to have. And I typed out some technical specifications on how I thought that this MP3 player should work. It should be clear. It should, be able to download music and not talk about the megabytes that it has, but just talk about the sound. I mean, the amount of songs that it can fit inside of a player. Instead of it talking about the content that the durability and the ruggedness of the hardware, we talked about the security of the hardware and what it meant to have a clear player and how it was going to eliminate and reduce violence inside of the facilities and what that meant for them. And we had this huge thing. And so the team over at University of Porto, they're like, hey, Marcus, we're on it. We love it. We love this. And in fact, I was so micro that when I dig down and go granular, like I'm a product guy. I think about what the product, I can see the product all the way at the end well before I build it. That's how my brain works. I think about the use case. I build a profile in my head, like John Smith is going to be using this product, and this is what it's going to look like in his hand. He's typically going to use it in his left hand versus his right hand. So this is where we have to put the buttons to ensure that the ergonomics of the device. Like I'm that guy. Yeah. And so I was able to give this very, very long description to the team over the University of Porto, and they're like, all right, great, like we can build this thing. Like, dude, I was so granular. Like I talked about the polymers that I wanted them to use when building the plastic for the unit.
You just hand it over on a silver platter. All this.
All you gotta do is build it, right? And so like, all right, great, let's build it. And so I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm gonna come over there and we're gonna build it together. So I flew over to Portugal. I spent some time over in Portugal for a bit. It was interesting because I couldn't eat the food. I had no idea how to, us over here in America, the arrogance that I had when I walk off the plane, I'm thinking that everyone spoke English. I'm like, why do you not speak English? Right? What do you mean you work in a hotel and you don't speak English, right? Like the audacity of you, right? Like so arrogant. And so I couldn't eat the food. Like I'm like trying to order stuff. It's like broken Spanish. I'm trying to use my broken Spanish to order the food or what have you.
You can say baño.
It was literally baño was like the only thing that I felt confident. They would just point.
And naps, yes.
And so we're touring the university. We're meeting these teams with the graphics and design labs, and then the hardware teams, and then talking about the logistical planning teams and manufacturing teams. And we have all of this stuff that was really, really going on. And so at the end of it, I fly back here to the States. I'm in my office. I can't wait for the proposal to come through. I'm ready to pull the trigger on it. Like already, didn't matter what the proposal said. I was ready to pull the trigger. And then I get the proposal from the team, and they're like, "Hey, we can build this thing. In order for us to be able to get it to prototype, it's going to be 1.3 million euro." Changed everything. I'm like, "Oh, so I got $250 in my account. I don't know how we can get from 250 to 1.3 million euro." In fact, I don't even know how to do that currency conversion of euro to USD, right? Like, so, that was an interesting time in my life, and
that's a lot of math,
right? It did, and over time, it was like that project fizzled, and then I went to go like do something else with some manufacturers here at stateside in like Philadelphia, I think it was, where we met some folks and they wanted to build the project, and we continue to build out like this long game plan, business plan, and strategy. And then we never ended up building the player. But the interesting that happened along the journey is that while we were there, I went to go sell the product to DOC and BOP. And they were like, we'll never be able to put an MP3 player in our facilities. Like, this is just the most least secure thing that we could put inside our facilities. So this will never happen. Marcus, get out. And I'm like, oh man, like let's think about if we would build a secure device. What if we did this?
What if? Yeah.
2 years later,
JPEG
player.
So how'd that happen? Like, did they have a different conversation at some level, or is it like the old boy network?
I think it's the good old boy network. I mean, if I'm being honest, right? Like, let's keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 100 on your show, right?
Yeah.
It was the good old boy network.
Somebody knew somebody.
They sent an email. They said, hey, and they had the resources to be able to build
prototype that
to build product. Exactly, we could prototype it and test it.
Yeah, because you already know right now that R&D is a cost. So somebody had to have a couple $1 million to build this prototype.
Exactly. That 1.3 million euro was just to give me one device that I can put in my hand before it went to mass production. Yeah. Right? Like, so in order for them to not only be able to do the same thing, but also be able to create the network and produce it and then scale it across the country, there was some things at play there that we didn't have.
It's funny because like on the JP3 players, I had those, and they were so crappy. Like the first iterations, they would break every freaking week. The software would melt down, and so they probably cheap and sleazy the R&D on it. So they came out with like the minimum viable product. It worked. We bought it. Then over time, I think it got better.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got up and running.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out for us now that we have grown into this new company, and we'll be able to kind of sort of test product out and well, not only with just with the departments, but with the family as well.
Yeah,
So that's
now you're not trying to bring hardware in. You're just kind of bringing in a postcard.
Exactly.
So that's a whole lot easier.
Yeah. But it's one of my failures. I mean, I spent a ton of money. Like you can only like just the traveling costs of going, to Portugal, right? Like it was at a time when I had a minimum wage job, right? And I literally invested like my entire check just in a flight.
And you're
then,
all in, 100%.
Oh, I'm all in. Yeah, I'm all in. And I invested my next entire check just on a hotel.
Building that parachute on the way down.
Building a parachute on the way down. Yeah.
Well, let's back it up again. Like, how long were you in prison? What for, if you're comfortable talking about it? And in what years?
So I got locked up in 1996. I was 15 years old. It was about a week or two after my 15th birthday.
Juvenile offender?
Yep. They certified me as an adult.
Okay, pulled you over.
Certified as an adult. And I ended up getting sentenced to 23 years to life for a carjacking. That my friend and I committed that carjacking. I'm not gonna talk about that in a second, but we got sentenced to 23 years of life for the carjacking. My judge suspended 15 of those years. It left me with 8 years to serve. I was in Virginia, where you have to serve at least 85% of your time, and so I came home after 8 years.
Wow, for carjacking
in 2004. Yeah, we walked up to a man who was sleeping in his car in a mall parking lot. One of the worst decisions I made. We tapped on the window with a gun. Asked for his keys. We had a gun, so I guess we demanded his keys.
Yeah. You can ask if you have a gun.
Yeah. Right.
If you don't have a gun, you have to demand.
Yeah, you got to demand. We jumped in the car. He got out of the car. We jumped in the car and we sped off. Left him standing there in the mall parking lot. And then the next day we were arrested. And I sat in front of that judge as they sentenced me to that time in prison.
And do you have a criminal history before this?
No.
So really first time offender. 23 years or 8.
Yeah.
That's how we do it in America.
Yeah, man. It was tough. And even at that time, like I honestly didn't even understand what was happening to me, right? Like
you're a 15-year-old kid. I remember when I was 15.
Bro.
Wait, what
15?
The fuck? Really?
Seriously.
And now usually it's like you always get a free pass. If you're juvenile, you can do something stupid. Yeah. You're a long ways from 18 at that point. Yeah,
a few years away from 18. In fact, when I first went to jail, I was so young that I couldn't buy certain items off commissary. Like they would restrict me, like, yo, you're too young to buy that. I'm like, and it was an issue because I'm like, you got it, like tobacco, yeah. And it was interesting because, so you can give me 8 years in here, right? Certified. I'm certified as an adult,
like a man. Yeah.
I am 100% a man in here now, right? Yeah. Like I'm like 15 years old, 16 years old. My sale partner has life plus 43.
But you can't watch an R movie on TV.
But I can't watch an R-rated movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like in a movie room. Yeah. Such an interesting time. So I came home in 2004. I wanted to start a couple of these kind of businesses. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that there was something inside of this space that I wanted to be able to build something. And it wasn't because like I was so like really drawn in. I had to do something for people in prison. But dude, I went to prison as a 15-year-old kid, so I didn't know anything else but prison. Like when I began to build my business acumen, it was centered around my experiences in prison. And so the product line and service lines that I wanted to be able to build were centered around that only because that's what I knew. So we knew we wanted to solve a problem. We didn't know what it was. And so we started off with things like, CMC. And then eventually I got a job. I got this job. So I started CMC while I was working at the paint store. But I got the job at the paint store where I was mixing paint. I was the guy who mixed that blue paint for you. And customers will come in. They would ask me, like, Marcus, how much do you charge to paint a kitchen? And I'm like, well, Dirk, we don't paint kitchens. I'm gonna sell you this blue paint so you can paint your own kitchen, Dirk. Yeah. And eventually, the painters will come into the paint store. They would also like, hey, Marcus, like, it's tough out here. The market is changing. The industry is going south. The real estate boom is starting to burst. Even though it was in the mid 2000s when we were at like the onset of the real estate boom, that bubble was starting to burst. And the fear was imminent. And so we wanted to try to figure out how to connect that bridge between the Dirks of the world who wanted his kitchen painted and then the painters of the world who wanted consistent work. We created a small painting firm where we began to paint those kitchens and paint houses. And Eventually, we grew it into a full construction firm where we were able to have larger clients. Like we started painting airports and colleges and universities, and that became a thing where now I'm able to hire people, and families were now changed because of the income that we were able to produce, the revenue we were able to generate, and I felt so immensely blessed. And interestingly enough, like that's again, I'm starting CMC, right? So I'm traveling the world. You know, I have this construction company, I have this painting business. Now I'm having this construction company that's starting to blossom, and I'm traveling. I met a girl, she became my fiance, who later became my wife, now the children of my, I'm the mother of my 2 children. And like my friends, they wanted to see all of that journey, right? They wanted to see each one of those moments from the time that I landed in Spain to the one vacation in Bahamas, to the wedding photos, to the first picture of the kid. They wanted them. And I would promise them that I would send them pictures, but I never did.
So when you say your friends, you're talking about your friends that you left behind because you got out of prison.
All of those guys who I left behind, yeah.
All your old brothers.
They were my brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of cutting your teeth. Like a lot of times they say, that the brain doesn't mature until age 25.
Yeah.
So a lot of your formative years were there.
I went through puberty in prison.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like that's how micro it was. And these men, as I'm learning how to adjust from trying to figure out how not to just bounce off the walls. I mean, I'm a teenager. You know what I mean? Like the energy level, alone. You know,
a 15-year-old kid.
Oh my goodness, right? Like, and I'm locked inside of the small cell with another person, and I'm like,
how's that work?
How does it? You know what I mean? I'm like, I just want to just move. I just want to just do stuff. And them, learning how to calm me down and helping me to, navigate through the anger and emotions that I was feeling that I couldn't understand why. I didn't understand. I never understood what depression was, right? Anxiety and fear and apprehension, all of those emotions that obviously, as an adult, I understand and can describe in pure detail. But at the time, like I didn't even know what they were. There was no one to teach me what emotion was because I grew up in an environment where it was like you had to almost kind of sort of either be emotionless or figure out your small corner where you can emote. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do any of this. So these men, they were in those formidable years where they, not only helped guide me through those tumultuous times, but they were also there to remind me that I was on an adult maximum security prison and that the majority of people there had 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and that I only had 8 years to do. And they're like, yo, bro, real talk, like you're going to go home one day.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to you walking around with this anger and like I understand the depression. I understand that, but you wanted to fight somebody over a store-bought honey bun. Your listeners probably got to know about the store-bought.
It's not about the honey bun.
It's 100% not about the honey bun, right? But at the time, they're like, dude, like it's still a honey bun. And if imagine what you're going to tell your mom when that person pushes back on that honey bun and you have to accelerate it even higher.
Yeah.
And then now you potentially run your time up. And now you got to do an additional 10 years that became as a result of a honey bun.
Yeah, she gets serious real fast.
Very fast. Yeah. Very fast.
There's no referee.
Exactly. No question.
But that honey bun is pretty important at that time.
A honey bun is everything.
Yeah.
Right? It's everything.
It could be a 20-cent soup. Same thing. It doesn't matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah. Absolutely. And they were the ones who helped me navigate through what that looked like. And now, like, fast forward to several years later when I'm home, and I'm like eating honey buns whenever I want to, I'm forced to have to remember those days where I had friends that was like, Marcus, no, you can't let that one go. Or I tell you what, push them off, let them pay you 2 honey buns back next week. We go to the commissary and we'll figure out. Like,
keep your respect,
Come on.
Yeah. So did you have the idea for Flickshop during your time, or did you form any of these business plans on the inside?
No. So I didn't even know what I wanted to do on the inside. In fact, I just wrote business plans, and I would write a business plan about anything, and I would even challenge people in the prison to give me ideas so that I could try to write a business plan on. And not because I just wanted to write a plan on that idea, but more because I wanted to be able to have the practice in developing plans and thinking about how business works and how mechanics works and how to articulate business needs and services.
And how do you write a business plan? Do you have any training, or do you get business books from the library? How do you figure this out?
That's a good question. So my mom, she was very instrumental, in that time. So when I was going through that very, very hard time of like depression and I became just as violent as the people that were around me inside of those cells. My mom, she had some intentionality baked inside of her and her planning of how I want to return back to the community, and she wanted to be able to make sure that I knew that there was life after prison. I was operating as if I didn't understand that there was life after prison. Like, I thought that prison was it. That was it. I'm going to die there. This is going to be what it is. Right? I saw other people die in prison. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's only a matter of time before this happens to me.
Yeah, when you're 15, 8 years seems like forever.
Dude, 8 years was inconceivable.
Yeah, because you've really only been alive 5 years.
Dude, exactly. No question.
Like if you're 15, I think from 10 to 15 really counts as your conscious years.
Seriously, because everything after that, I don't even think I had an original thought. But I mean, that not only is like 8 years inconceivable, but right, like this is the mid 90s. Like I got locked up in 96. When Y2K was starting to approach, that was a big deal. Like we were nervous about whether or not we were going to figure out whether or not they want to turn the clocks back.
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Like, what's going to happen when, we go from 99 to 2000, right? And so, like, I honestly thought I was going to die in prison. I didn't even realize what was happening. But my mom, she was intentional about making sure that I understood that wasn't the case. And so she sent me a bunch of letters. And she wrote me a bunch of letters, sent me a bunch of pictures. And she also sent me books. And she wanted to ensure, like, she didn't send me books. She would have to order the books from a book supplier. And then the book supplier would send me the books. Or she would send me the money to buy books.
Different rules.
Yeah. Sure. And so I would read these books around business development, business plans, how to pitch a business idea. And that's when I started to experiment with my own ideas.
All right, so you got some business books. Mom's helping out. It's really good to have that support.
Yeah, I mean, the support was everything. There was no way I would have been able to make it, especially at that time. Like, I wasn't mature enough to be able to make it through and even just, like, guide myself in a positive direction. It wasn't.
So what's Mom's doing now?
Mom, she is the fulfillment manager over at Flickshop.
Good for her.
Yeah. She runs the office and makes sure that every postcard gets out.
Cool. So before we talk about how she's feeling about you now, let's talk about how this whole thing started.
Sure.
You get out. What year?
2004.
Okay. And then
so come home in 2004. I finally landed a job at the paint store in like the summer of 2004. I came home in February. And I went straight, like, beating the path, right? Like, 3-4 job applications a day, 3-4 interviews a week, right? Like, I knew, like, I was going hard at it. And then finally I landed that job at the paint store. And now, like, I'm running this painting business. Fast forward, I quit the job at the paint store as I'm running the painting business. The company began to grow. And my boy, I met him in prison, my boy Tony. I met him while I was in prison, and he was like one of the guys who I trusted, where I leaned on because he was from DC. I was locked up in Virginia with the majority of the people in Virginia, they were from Virginia, and it was like, it's every prison that I went to was like a small pot of people who were from DC, and you go to where your tribe is, right? They were the people who I could kind of sort of. I could talk about the old neighborhood or the old high school or some of the basketball games, and they knew what I was talking about, versus the guys who lived from Richmond, Virginia, who had no idea what Suitland High School was and how good the basketball team was. So Tony became one of my closest friends in prison, and when he came home in 2005, he started a janitorial firm in Southern Maryland. And my construction company was operating in DC. We were doing well. I knew we wanted to be able to continue to grow. We acquired his janitorial firm. He became my vice president over the construction business, and that freed me up to be able to launch Flickshop.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So how did the idea of Flickshop happen?
Because of my boys, they just wanted the pictures of those vacations I was on.
Pictures.
Yeah, they like send me pictures, and it never happened. And I would promise them.
Yeah. How do you figure out? I could send them postcards or just actual pictures I print off, and it's a pain in the ass. And you're like, you see a market.
What happened was I would promise I was going to send them pictures.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I would tell them. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna send them as soon as I get back. Of course, I'm gonna send them. I knew how valuable. We know how valuable mail is in prison, right? Mail means everything. Mail means everything in prison.
Absolutely.
And so I knew I wanted to. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna write you. Real talk. As soon as I get back, I'm gonna write you. And then a week went by and I didn't write. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm real talk. I really am going to write you.
Yeah,
and
I really mean it.
This time I really mean it though.
Yeah.
And I'm going to print pictures off my phone. And I'm going to go to Walmart and I'm going to go buy some envelopes.
It's totally doable. But until you actually have to do it.
Until you actually have to do it.
Yeah.
And it never got done. And so I would commonly tell them, I'm like, if I could text you, my life would be so much easier. And so we looked in the App Store, and we wanted to try to figure out a way we wanted to try to find that app that was going to allow us to be able to text our friends that was in prison. And what did that technology look like? And when we couldn't find one, we knew we had to build it. And so we built Flickshop.
Very cool. How long did it take to build?
It's a good question.
Because now it's not a hardware thing; it's just really just software.
Initially, it was software. I mean, we still have a good at the end of it because it's an actual postcard.
You need some kind of specialized printers.
Yeah, but initially, like when we first launched, I had a very similar experience to that. Like that.
Is it just coming off the bubble jet, and you're cutting with scissors?
Nah. Interestingly enough, when we first launched Flickshop, I had that experience of the CMC experience, the Correctional Media Corporation experience, where it was like we got a bunch of price tags that was like something crazy. And remember this was back in 2011, beginning of 2012, and so apps and third-party apps were brand new. Like it's interesting that we're only in 2019, and it was only like 7 years ago, 7-8 years ago. But like
it's a whole different world back then.
A whole different, like it's completely different. How we leverage our mobile is incredible compared to what we were doing back then. And in fact, when we first started to build Flickshop, I didn't even have an iPhone. We were building for the iPhone, and I didn't even have an iPhone. I had a BlackBerry. But we knew we wanted to be able to build this technology that connected people using apps, and iPhone was one of the first devices that allowed you to be able to have these third-party apps that you can put on the phone, and you could do something magical with them. And so we started to call people, and they were like, hey, it's going to cost you $800,000 to build the app, and it's going to cost you $1 million to be able to build this thing. And then some people would say, hey, why do you even want to build things for people in prison anyway? And so, as you can imagine, none of them will ever touch our technology. Any of those people. But eventually we landed on a user experience designer that was at a firm that was working on some tech, that was excited about what it is that we were building. He helped us put together our first tech team, and we built our MVP.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
So from the time that I first called John until our launch, not quite a year.
Okay.
It was a little less than a year.
And how many people were on the tech team?
So we had John, and we had 2 back-end developers. We had 1 web developer, and that was it. And then eventually we had someone else come in and do more designs for us because we began to build for Android, and we wanted to be able to have a platform that mirrored each other on all of the channels that you would be able to leverage Flickshop, whether it be .com, Flickshop.com, iOS or Android. And so we brought in some other designers, but that was the original team.
So like a lot of founders, you have the idea, you find the talent. Are you paying with equity? How do you get them on board?
Good question. So yeah, I paid out of my pocket. It was interestingly enough. I mean, I was blessed.
That's actually cheaper for you in the long run if you can pay for it.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so grateful. I was blessed to be able to have a revenue generating tool during that time anyway. I had a construction company that allowed me to be able to invest back into that company, and so then I could just pay hours.
Yeah, because you could have lost 30% of your company real fast.
I could have lost a huge percentage of my equity early before we even had a product.
So you had the product, still 100% owner?
Still 100% owner. And then
I can imagine a lot of founders wish they were in your position.
Well, I mean, well done. I'm not 100% owner now.
Okay.
What I ended up doing right after we started the first part of development, I brought in some of my family members, and I didn't bring it for investment capital, but I brought my family members in because I wanted them to have the opportunity to be able to be a part of a breaking of the generational poverty cycle that a lot of people from my neighborhood came from. And then 2, I wanted to give them access to possibility of just learning what it looks like to be an equity investor inside of a company. So I gave each one of those family members a very, very small percentage of the company for a small check, just so I can bring them along the journey. They will learn how to invest this way, and then potentially they can find the next companies that that are meaningful to them in their own personal lives. Later on, So I had my own revenue. We had a couple of dollars came in from the family members, and immediately after that, we were just raising out of revenue. We knew we had a product that we had to sell, and we had to sell a whole lot of it in order to be able to keep the company doors open.
So do you have any institutional investors like
We are
funding? And then also, what's your exit strategy? Are you just trying to run this thing forever?
So do we have institutional investors? We do. So we are now a venture-backed company. Our first major institutional investor was the Techstars Business Accelerator.
Nice.
That was huge
it Techstars,
for us.
Or do they have partners that do it? And how does Techstars work for the people that haven't done it?
That's a good question. So Techstars is a business accelerator. I like to call it the Harvard MBA program on steroids. You have a 2-year program that's condensed down into 3 months of very intense work from like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night for 3 months straight, every single solitary day. In fact, for the first 2 weeks, we have this thing in Techstars called Mentor Madness, where you interview and meet with a minimum of 70 mentors in 2 weeks.
How many?
70. 70.
Wow.
70 mentors in 2 weeks.
What's that like?
Insane. Like you're in these they're all 20-minute meetings. And you're from 6 a.m. is your first meeting.
Speed dating.
It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mentor speed dating.
That's crazy.
20 minutes on a mentor call, and you get what they commonly call in Techstars like this mentor whiplash, because I'll be on a call with you and you're the CFO of Priceline.com, because one of the things I will say is Techstars has world-class mentors. Like they figure out how to get the best of talent in some of the best corporations around the world, and then they ask them to mentor their cohort members. And we'll have the CFO of Priceline and meeting them for 20 minutes, and we'll talk about like how we think about financials and financial budgeting and how we're building out our financial plan and strategy around that. And then we'll hang up the call. It's a Zoom call, right? For us, it was a Zoom call. We'll get off that Zoom call and get on the next, like literally press the end button and press the leave meeting button and then start meeting button at the same time. And now you're on another 20-minute call with a marketing professional over at Marriott. And then you get that marketing professional will probably say something that may be a little contentious with the initial the first mentor from Priceline, right? And so then you got the third one, and then the fourth one, and the fifth one, all the way down the line. By the end of the day, mentally, you're exhausted.
It's like, and how do you even score those and rank those? Like, if you're supposed to pick a mentor, how are you doing that?
Yeah, so
like after the 20th mentor call, you just blur.
I know, right? They have an incredible strategy in how they think about the ways that we should be engaging with our mentors, all the way down through all of the data point checks between us and our managing directors to help kind of sort of massage and facilitate the relationships that need to go deeper. Because out of 70 mentors, right, like 20 of them may really be able to add a tremendous amount of value to our company. Now, the other 50, they're still able to add value because there's one person that may be in charge of product at Mattel, right? And they while they build toys and it has nothing to do with us, as they think about building product at Mattel and we think about building product over at Flickshop, just the process alone may have added value in that 20-minute conversation. Like, hey, how do you guys think about strategizing for product and product delivery or product launch, right? And so we have those mentor calls. But out of those 70, like I said, 20 of them may be good ones. And then, not good ones, but ones that have alignment with our business, and we think that we can go deeper with them. And then we try to go deeper.
And then how many do you walk away with? Just one?
3.
3, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe product operations.
3 tops. So they suggest, Techstars suggests like 1 or 2, but 3 tops. And we walked away with 3.
And then, so when did this happen in relation to? So I bumped into you in the Just Leadership.
Yeah.
No,
Unlock Futures first. Yeah.
That was back in 2017.
Yeah.
Was Techstars after that?
Techstars was immediately after that.
So right after you got to Unlock Futures, and like maybe you talked about the progression. How did you get involved in any of these programs?
So the Unlock Futures Accelerator program came right before Techstars. Techstars came right after Unlock Futures. In fact, one of the things I was excited about telling John earlier today when we were sitting in the room with John Legend this morning, I was excited to talk to him about what it meant for us to have them invest in us and be the one that validated our business model and added credibility to the company.
A lot of legitimacy there.
Oh my goodness, it was crazy. Like it was up because I think we were 5 years in by that time, and
what was your traction up to that point?
We were scrambling. And not like for a business, but we were trying to figure out how, because we just undercapitalized, right? So trying how to figure out how to grow a scaling business without revenue. Without investment. Yeah. And so they came in. They invested in us. It allowed us to be able to test out some new product. We launched Flickshop Angels. And then Techstars came in and right behind him and said, wait a minute, John's investing in you? Oh, let's talk more.
Yeah,
right?
Different conversation.
Yeah, now we have a different conversation.
Yeah.
They invested in us as well. And after that, it started to open my eyes. I wasn't even exposed to what it was like to raise capital. I didn't know about venture capital. I didn't understand what that was.
Yeah.
I thought that the only way that you could succeed in business is if you had revenue. Like, how else would you get money if you don't have sales, right? You know what I mean? I never understood that. Yeah. And then later I'm like, wait a minute, wait, what?
Yeah.
How come no one told me about this when I was in high school? My trajectory would have been completely different. I would have never used my own money for anything.
Yeah. OPM, right?
OPM, no doubt. But I mean, but one of the things it did do, though, on the flip side, I learned so much about my business. It allowed that bootstrapping forced me to get very, very creative. And now I'm super grateful, one, because, you know, I have a lot more equity than I would have had if I would have took money. But also, I wouldn't know the things that I know, the tools, the things that allow me to be able to really succeed. I wouldn't have gotten those things if I would have got a check day one.
So then how did it go from, like, when you do find investors that want to invest and they all want, like, some kind of exit, what does your exit look like? Are you talking public? Or
I mean, so I can talk about it.
Are you talking, like, going public, or are you hoping somebody's going to buy Flickshop?
I don't know. I mean, I'm laser focused on sending as many pieces of love and support into the sales as I possibly can. Of course, you know, it allows us to be able to generate more revenue so that we can hire more people and bring on teams that allow us to be able to do our jobs better. That's where I spend a lot of my time. Do I think about the exit or what it may potentially look like for Flickshop? I do. I mean, there are some potential acquirers out there that we've earmarked that, like, hey, maybe interested in this kind of technology going forward, and maybe we'll push this thing to as far as we can go with it. And they say, hey, you know, Marcus, do you want a 200 employee business, you know, managing $500 million a year budget, or do you want to sell it to us for $100 million a day, and we do that, and maybe you can teach us how best to be able to do it on your side without a lot of the headache that comes along with being a founder.
And that's actually a really good point, because a lot of people that are good at starting companies aren't good at managing the companies.
Yeah.
So where's your sweet spot?
I'm the vision guy.
Yeah, because you don't want to run a company and manage. Do you want to manage a company?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, I don't even like. I mean, I do it because I have to now, right? But I'm super pumped about hiring somebody that can do it better than me.
Yeah. So speaking about the company, how many people are working for you right now?
So we have 4 people that are working for us internally, and then we have 12 offshore developers in Pakistan.
Okay. And do they actually print the cards?
No, my mom prints the cards. So we had this inside.
Back to mom. Let's talk
Yeah. Mom's a fulfillment manager. So when we first launched, Xerox came and built this huge monstrous printer, probably about 15 feet long.
Wow.
Huge printers, and we run postcards through these things, and then
just like in the movies, you just spin out.
Yeah, we're just spinning out postcards. I mean, if you think about if you have a visual in your head, think about like a newspaper print press.
Does it put the stickers on there and the stamps and everything?
We have different machines for each stage of the printing process.
So what's going through mom's head? Like, mom's rode with you through this prison sentence, and all of a sudden, holy shit, we got a 15-foot printer in the living room?
Yeah. It's interesting because, mom, she really just wanted me to be successful. She's like, look, whatever it's going to take for success.
Is this success yet?
To my mom, it's success.
Yeah. You got a Tesla. That's pretty cool. First time I rode in one, I loved it.
Nah, thank you. I mean, to my mom, it's success, right? My mom enjoys knowing that her son is building a company that is impactful around the world. But it really could have been selling peanut butter. That would have looked like success. The thing of it for her was that I'm doing something that I enjoy and that I'm being impactful in. I can actually even still honestly call it ministry. We want to be able to also figure out how to be able to bring the impact on the social side as well into the sales, and so it's a big part of ministry for us. And so she enjoys it. She likes, every now and again she can peek at those postcards that are being printed, and she'll see a sonogram picture, right, or that first day of school picture. And like as you can imagine, like over the next couple of weeks, oh my goodness, the Halloween costume pictures that are going to start flying. The bundles of cuteness overload that comes through these postcards is incredible. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. My mom loves it, and I'm very grateful for her.
So we kind of skimmed the surface of Unlocked Features. How did you find that program in the first place? And same thing for Just Leadership USA.
Yeah.
Are you just out there hustling and you just run into them, or?
Bro, I'm hustling, man. Like I keep it moving. You know,
You're just applying to every program you see?
Well, not every program I see, but what I do is I try to figure out how to build relationships with the programs that I think that I'm making. You know, they're maximizing the amount of impact they can do within the organizational structure. And I think the New Profit did a good job with that. They figured out a way to collaborate with John Legend and Free America, Bank of America, and they were bringing in these collaborators that wanted to see systemic changes inside of the reentry process, and it's centered around entrepreneurship. And so it was a clear fit for me and the mission of the company and how we want to be able to employ people and how we think about entrepreneurship. The funny thing of it is that John and I introduced Unlock Futures in New York well before the application process started.
Oh, really? I love how you talk about John Legend as John.
I know, bro. Like,
me and John.
Yeah, I know, bro. Like, we're best friends, I guess. But
I imagine he has a lot of best friends.
I know, right? I'm sure he has a lot of best friends.
I start calling him John now too.
he's up part of the homie. He's up on the homies now.
So how did you meet him in New York? I mean, not everyone bumps into John.
Yeah, like so I had done another event for someone else that was connected to New Profit, and John was a Flickshop user.
No kidding.
Yeah. He used Flickshop for one of his family members. I didn't even know it.
Yeah, freaking John Legend is using your product.
I didn't even know it.
How about that?
I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like
feedback.
and when we did the first call, I'm like, holy crap, is this really John Legend? Like seriously? And you use Flickshop?
Sing your song.
I know, right? Seriously. And so they're like, hey, we want you to come to New York, and we want this new program that we're launching. It's brand by this organization called that I'm funding called Free America. We just launched that, and it's being managed by a think tank and a social entrepreneurship investment fund called New Profit. It's like, oh, tell me more. I'm there. I mean, you're inviting me. I'm 100% there. But tell me more. How does this work? And then when I learned about what it is that they want to accomplish, I'm like, oh man, this is incredible. Like I'm all the way in. Even if I'm not going to be a part of one of the cohort members, I'm all the way in. And so John flew me up to New York. We went to this really like super swanky private restaurant. Like walked through the back door, like it had some mob ties to it or something somewhere. And then when we pulled the curtain back, it was like a bunch of cameras and a bunch of people like quietly like sitting around just waiting for me to come in. Like, hey, Marcus, we want you to talk about your experience in prison and the technology that you're building called Flickshop. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so John, he talked a little bit about the reason why he was making this investment inside of this organization with Free America. And then he said, I want to spin this and talk. I want to talk to Marcus a little bit and kind of sort of just interview him and talk about the technology he built. And so he introduced me. I talked a little bit about my experience. He talked a little bit about the program that they wanted to be able to build with this new cohort called Unlock Futures. And I immediately like, you know what? I have to apply for this. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be incredible. And it's backed by, America's sweetheart, John Legend, right? So how can we think about leveraging what it is that they already want to accomplish, what we have done so far, and build a scalable business?
That's very cool.
Yeah,
it's funny because like the real value there's like the legitimacy, the video, the takeaway. But I even remember at the time, I think you and I were in a similar boat because when we were waiting for that $50,000 check, we really needed that.
Bro, we would have went out of business if we didn't have that $50,000 check.
Yeah, we need to keep the lights on.
I seriously I want people to hear that. That is important. Like we honestly, there have been times where we were going to go out of business like at least 20 times by now. I mean, way more than 20 times. But there were pivotal times where we were getting ready to go out of business. We had, we went through that process. We were learning how to navigate through those waters, and it was at that stage we were like business, we were going to literally getting ready to go out of business, and not because like business was failing. And there were tons of different reasons why we were getting ready to go out of business at different stages. One of those times was business was way too successful, and it was interesting because we were sending too many postcards the preceding week. I mean, the next week. Where the preceding week, we if we sent 1,500 Flickshop postcards one week, and the week prior we sent 1,000, we only had to capture the revenue for the 1,000. You
got a cash flow problem.
We had a cash flow problem. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it can't continue to spend, and when I didn't have enough revenue that was being generated out of the construction company to fuel this growth, we knew we had to raise cash. And then in walks John Legend into a room saying, "I'm going to give you $50,000. Save the day."
Nice. I think that's when we connected too, because like we were pretty tough shape too. Yeah, we had to pay rent. We got to keep the lights on, pay internet,
Seriously,
pay the phone.
I gotta eat.
Yeah, I gotta
Right?
eat.
You know what I mean? Like seriously, like there are things that had to have been paid for in our organizations, and I mean, and I think one of the things I loved about the Unlock Futures cohort was that we were able to be honest and transparent with one another, and like throw the dirt on the table and talk about like, no, I'm in the same boat too. Like don't think that just because you see me in the newspaper, I'm a gazillionaire and I've already got it figured out, right? Like, no, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's all going to pieces. But I feel like if we can make this next turn, we will learn something and we will be sustainable enough to be able to get to the next milestone. Being around people that gave me that kind of vibe and that energy was incredible. So I'm so grateful for you all.
So kind of make the comparison between that program and Just Leadership USA.
Yeah.
How did you find that program, and what was your takeaway?
Just Leadership USA came about. They had sent me an invitation.
They invited you?
Yeah, they invited me. It was a couple of people,
Oh,
that was a part of the cohort, that previous cohorts that was like, hey, you should really think about this open enrollment. I'm like, I don't know how I will be able to add value to the cohort and vice versa. And I just, because I don't even know what it is. And so
after going through that mentoring program where you're like screening mentors,
exactly,
your head's already there.
I am like I had just come out of these kinds of sort of, so my brain was already in that space, and, we did it like every day, like not just, but every single day for months on end. And it was very, very intense. And so, I'm like, I don't know. But, it was a couple of people that I really respect in that were a part of the Just Leadership team. And I'm like, maybe it's an opportunity that I should consider.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Networking's good.
Yeah. And I did. And it was cool. It was great to be able to meet people, if nothing else, to be able to meet people in a space that had us, we were all mission aligned, and we all had some kind of criminal justice background. I mean, criminal background. And when I met people that had like this kind of background that I had, and they all were working on freaking incredible things, and they were all like leaders in their own spaces, in their own right, it inspired me so much that I'm like, oh man, this was a great decision.
So I know in our earlier sessions with Just Leadership, kind of telling our story was an integral part of what they're teaching us.
Yeah.
And did that really work for you? Did you already have your story down, or did your story improve with them?
I honestly think that, you can never, like, storytelling, I think is I feel, all entrepreneurs, you're a media company first, and then you're whatever else that you do second. Now, I don't care what you do, right? Like, if you sell these candies that are sitting on this office table that right here, you're a media company first, and you should be able to articulate why this mint it tastes great and why it's better than a Brock's mint, or why, like, you should be able to articulate this and then figure out ways to be able to build content around this mint, right? And when I learned how the value of what storytelling was, then I understood the importance that JLUSA was placing on learning how to master storytelling. So at that stage, while I think I was a great storyteller,
you tuned it up a little bit.
I think it allowed me to have the opportunity to get the reps in that will make me better. Because especially when you're doing public speaking or you're doing storytelling, it really is about the reps.
So it's interesting. We actually lost you towards the end of the program.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
So it's an interesting thing to happen.
It's almost ironic, right?
Yeah. Look, I love what Just Leadership is doing. I love the mission of the organization. I'm super grateful that they invest in leaders the way that they do. It wasn't a right fit for me toward the end of the program because I had another obligation that I had to go meet, and Just Leadership has a very strict policy around not attending, and you have to attend each one of the convenings. I had to leave one of the convenings a little early, and that led to my termination from the group.
How early? It was on the Sunday, or when did you actually have to leave?
So I left on that Saturday afternoon. So I came, it was on a weekend. I came earlier in that Saturday. I think I stayed to maybe like around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was doing a TED Talk. Go watch my TED Talk. Gotta go watch the TED Talk.
And that's the irony here. So they train you for a whole year. Public storytelling is part of it.
Yeah.
And then you have to leave to do some public storytelling.
Yeah. It was interesting, right? It was interesting.
In a TED Talk, I think I've heard of those. That's no small thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a pretty big deal, and I was super pumped about it.
As a good executive, you made a tough choice.
It was a tough choice. It really was, and I didn't think that it would lead into the decision that was made. But I mean, I understand that rules have been set, and hey, they wanted to follow them. So we, I had to choose between doing a TED and going to.
You got to be accountable.
Yeah,
we all agreed.
Seriously, I signed. You know what I mean, and said I would be willing to do this. Everyone, right? And then when the TED folks hit me and said, "Hey, Marcus, but we need you here, and we have to have you here." It was like, hey, either like you can stay, by all means stay with your cohort, and we can look for another TED speaker.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And so I had a decision I had to make.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side, maybe.
Maybe, right? Yeah. So I had to risk, like, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to be a TED speaker, one of the largest stages in the world for public speakers, and.
So this isn't TEDx. This is the full TED Talk.
No, this is the full TED Talk. No, not a TEDx.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it posted all over social media because marketing. so I'll probably catch it on the flight home.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. You got to watch it. It's pretty. I think it came out pretty good.
I would imagine.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Oh, and before we go, tell me about how your brothers are still in prison are looking at you now. Because you run around the yard, drinking coffee, talking about big ideas.
Yeah.
But you actually got out here and did it.
And now, we're blessed to be able to say we're the ones that connect them all. Look,
they're always like, they have hope, like they can actually do it too, or what?
I'm living in the cloud, Dirk. Yeah. Like, not only, and I can go deeper than that, right? Like, not only are my best friends on the rec yards looking at me like, holy crap, Marcus did it. Like, we knew he was going to do it. Like, but he actually did it, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, whoa, like, and now it's a different wave of questions now, right? So it's no longer questions like, just the whimsical, hey, how are you doing and how's the weather and how are the kids, right? It's very intentional conversations that are they're like, look, I got 15 minutes with Marcus. Marcus, talk to me about venture capital. Now, your last Flickshop that you sent to me, you sent me a picture with you and a VC. Now, is that the same thing as angel investing? Now, as if I wanted to be able to build a business for this, right, and the conversations have changed.
That's brilliant.
Oh, my goodness. It's the best thing ever, right? To be able to have my friends.
You know where his head's at.
They use terms like product market fit. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a housing unit talking about product market fit. Like, it's incredible. And so, I'm blessed to be able to say it. But even bigger than that, though, Dirk, this is the interesting thing. Not only are my best friends that are still in those sales that are going to come home and be wildly successful now because they've been exposed to what potential success looks like without selling drugs or without selling cars or without robbing someone. Like they can now see it. They're like, oh, this is possible. This is not just a made for TV movie. Yeah. Like, I know Marcus personally.
That guy.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like he sat in this cell with me and shared duplex cookies. Right. So we know Marcus, but also but my family members. My friends, my closest friends that never did time in prison, the ones who barely graduated from high school, maybe went on to college for 6 months and then dropped out and trying to figure out what they want to do, but don't quite know. They're looking at me they're looking at themselves like they think that they're failures. They're like, man, I'm a failure. I can't amount. I haven't done it. I dropped out. I missed the opportunity. I missed my boat. I'm 30 years old and now I don't know what to do. And then I come around and they know not to say that kind of nonsense to me. Because I'm like, so are you complaining? Who's a failure? Yeah. Who's the bigger failure between the two of us, right? Now let's talk about how I overcame and with the tenacious spirit that you're going to have in order to be able to get to where you want to go. Having them walk away from those conversations and feeling like they can be winners or that they are winners.
100% real. Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm so grateful.
That's so awesome.
It's humbling.
It's great to meet you. Great to know you.
Dirk, thank you, bro. Yeah. Likewise, man.
Keep it up.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
See what's next.
No doubt. Make sure when I'm out there, when I'm on your side of the country, man, I'm gonna hit you up, man, so we can hang out. You can show me your town.
Marcus Bullock, Flickshop, TED Talk.
Thank you.
Watch on the way home.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right.